The New York Knicks, the 4th seed in the NBA last year, 41 wins and 31 losses with Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock in your starting lineup. Now you're upgrading to Kemba Walker, an all-star caliber player who people still think is washed, but it averaged 20 the past 2 seasons. Yeah. I don't know. That's not washed to me. And replacing Bullock with Fournier, who can also create offensively, R.J. Barrett, year 3 leap, Mitchell Robinson being healthy, being that defensive anchor, and also they re-signed back their guys, Burks, Derrick Rose, Nerlens Noel, and this could make up a top 5 bench in the NBA. Not one, I don't think so, not one, but top 5 definitely. I mean, are the Knicks going to remain the 4th seed, be higher, or are they going to lower down?
Well, I like their draft. Getting Miles McBride and getting Quentin Grimes, Jericho Sims. I liked it. It was a solid draft for where they were at. They got a good draft. Bringing back their guys that was a part of that success last year was huge. Derrick Rose, I feel like, was their best playoff performer in that series. Bringing back Alec Burke, who's one of their best three-point shooters, is huge. Defensively, everything. I feel like with Thibodeau's defensively, it's consistency. He's going to still have that consistent, maybe not, top 3 defense because, Kemba Walker is still a little bit, he's not a good defender. And Evan Fournier is not that great of a defender.
Payton isn't either, though.
No, yeah, Payton, but Reggie Bullock is.
A lot of teams got better defensively.
Reggie Bullock's a bit overrated defensively.
He's a better defender than Fournier.
They're not that far off.
We'll see. I mean, like I said, I think they'll drop off a little bit in the backcourt on defense, but nonetheless, they'll still be a top 5, top 6 defense in the NBA. They predicate more on team defense.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what haunted them in the playoffs. They didn't have a stopper. Somebody who not like you can't really stop these players in the NBA, but somebody that can slow them down, make it tough on them. And I think that's what kind of failed them in the playoffs, not to mention their offense completely shut down. Mm-hmm. But it was pretty, their offense last year was pretty simple-minded. Now you bring in Kemba, who can create. You bring in Fournier, who can create, who also could space the floor. They're expecting a big year 3 jump from R.J. Barrett. He's expected to take that leap, if not into all-star leap, at least close to being that.
Yeah.
Julius Randle, year 2 as the man. They expect him to make improvements in his game. Look at that series and come back better. You still have that bench. Mitch Robinson finally being healthy. You want to see him. He has that Tyson Chandler in him, that defensive anchor. So they need him to be that to be huge. But nonetheless, this team is stacked. Nerlens Noel coming off the bench. He still keeps that intensity. So that's great for them. Derrick Rose still keeps that Kemba Walker intensity. Yeah. This team can roll in 5, roll out that 5, and roll back in still a solid 5. So I think this team, their ceiling, depending on how everything goes, honestly, I think their ceiling is probably it's tough. I would probably say their ceiling is the Eastern Conference Finals. Their absolute ceiling is an Eastern. If everything falls right, I think this team can make the Eastern Conference Finals.
I wasn't expecting that.
Their floor.
Is he saying that because I complimented the Bulls before the show?
It's possible.
No, I don't care what you did before the show. But no, I think their ceiling, because even like you said before, we saw last year, Nets and the Bucks saw each other.
Yeah.
And then boom, that was the top 2 teams in the second round.
True.
And then the Hawks end up being Philly. I can see a situation where the Knicks play a team that's not overly whelming like the Nets, and then they just go out and they win that game off grit and grind. And, for a team like the Garden, a team like the Knicks, the Garden is a great place to play in, and that home court advantage is dangerous. So their ceiling for me is Eastern Conference. Their floor, obviously, first round.
Right now, I don't know a strong matchup in that first round that can get them to the ECF. So now, my whole argument here right now is no one expected the Knicks to be as good as they were last season. They overachieved tremendously. You could have asked anyone, including Joel. There's no way they would have even thought they would sniff the playoffs at all, let alone be the 4th seed overall. Now, there's teams in the NBA. We were talking before the show that the Knicks had one of the best records against teams over 500. Now, this even leads me further to believe these teams did not think much of the Knicks. Every time that these top caliber teams played the Knicks, they kind of looked at them like, we got it. We don't got to worry about it. And the Knicks took advantage because the Knicks are a great, hard-nosed team that is going to play hard every single night. And that's only going to benefit them for as long as they keep this core together. And it's only going to get better as long as RJ continues to develop, as long as Randall continues to develop. We'll see how now you bring in a guy like Kemba Walker, and now you're not forcing Julius Randle to be the primary facilitator of the offense. Again, we spoke about this. I think Randle could be a facilitator. He can't be your primary facilitator. We saw what happens when he is. The Hawks figured out right away how to stop that. Now, another reason that leads me to believe that these teams weren't taking the Knicks all too serious is the first time that a team took them serious, that really realized, all right, it's time to hone in on what they're doing. We got to stop them. We got to move on and not think twice about it. The Hawks. The Hawks came in, had a game plan, executed it perfectly, handled their work, and moved on like it was nothing. Now, I'm not trying to discredit what the Knicks did last season because it was amazing to watch for sure. But I just look at other teams right now, and I just think overall, I don't like how they stack up against the rest. Now, as you mentioned, ceiling, I wouldn't go as far to say ECF, but I would say their ceiling is a 3 seed. They could be a 3 seed. Last season, they played with far worse talent and were the 4th seed. When you play hard every single night, you're giving yourself a chance to win, especially when you got talent on the squad.
So you don't think the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference can make the Eastern Conference Finals?
I don't think so. I think they're going to get a tough. The Eastern Conference is getting very good, very quickly, and we're going to go about it later, and we're going to see that the 6th, 7th, 8th seed even, they're good teams.
I get you, but if you can see them as high as 3, they can't beat 4, 5, 6, 7.
There's a realm of possibility that given the Knicks additions of Fournier and Kemba, which definitely do fit the needs of the team, that they finish as high as 3, but their floor for me is a play-in team. There's just so much that could go on in the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It could come down to a game or two between a bunch of those teams. So that's why it's kind of tricky for me to really delegate where they're going to be. But I do believe the Knicks are not. They're not going to be. Their ceiling could be a 3 because obviously they were a 4 last season, but I'm not too sure about that.
Wow. Riv, let me ask you a question.
Talk to me.
We play in basketball.
Yo.
You don't think I'm a very good player, right?
Okay.
We play, and let's say we play the first time and I shock you. I beat you.
Yep.
What's going to happen in that second game?
I'm going to take you a little serious now.
You're going to lock in. What if I beat you another time?
Man, you're just better than me.
What if you're just watching from the sidelines and you watch me play pickup before you've ever seen me play?
Mm-hmm.
I don't look very good, but if I beat a couple people in a row at pickup and you see that, now when you play me, how are you going to play?
Lock in.
That's why I think your assessment on the Knicks is wrong, because I don't think teams saw what the Knicks were doing, winning these games and saying, we can just take them nonchalantly. I think Tom Thibodeau has that respect of every coach in the NBA that his teams come out to play hard. We have to take them seriously. And yes, we exceeded expectations, but what we got to the Knicks, I don't think Thibodeau, I don't think the team, I don't think they're satisfied.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to just bank on last season. I think they're saying, you guys are still sleeping on us. Vegas just said we're going to win 42 games. We won 41 last year, and bringing back Kemba and Fournier in a 72-game season. Now we're playing 10 more games, and we're going to win 1 more game. I think the Knicks feel greatly disrespected by all these tabloids. I think RJ Barrett feels disrespected being left off of lists. I think Julius Randle feels disrespected because I think people are saying on the outside that the season was a fluke. Kemba is getting called washed. I think he sees that. He hears that. Everybody on the Knicks has something to prove. They have a chip on their shoulder. We're going to come out and exceed the expectation of this lowly 42 wins. And now that we're getting back Mitchell Robinson, who can be a defensive player of the year candidate, wow. We can be a top team. I think we can be a 3rd seed in the NBA. And you're right. If we do face a good matchup in the playoffs, we can make the Eastern Conference Finals.
But
you guys know that I've said this before. If we face the Hawks in the playoffs, they don't want that smoke.
No, they don't want
that smoke. Cam Reddish, a report just came out that his trainer actually tells Cam Reddish, be more like RJ Barrett.
I can't wait till we get into that.
Be more like RJ Barrett.
Into that.
So, he needs to be more like him because he understands RJ Barrett's a dog. He's a mentality. He's a bull.
Yep.
He's a bull, pit bull, whatever you want to call it, bulldog. He's a bull regardless.
Yeah.
He's a different breed. I think he's going to come out playing great. And to talk about the X's and O's of the Knicks, last year they were one of the worst pick and roll teams in the NBA because RJ Barrett was their lead ball handler in those situations. He's not very effective at this young of an age. Maybe he got better this past offseason. Kemba, Fournier are great in the pick and roll. Now our offense is going to be much more fluid instead of being reliant on Julius Randle ISOs, contested mid-range shots. I think our offense is going to get much better, and defense is going to be relatively the same.
You guys were third. You guys were third in defensive rating. You were first in points. You were 23rd in offense. So I think I think the offense obviously improves into the teens. You know, they can get to 15, 14. That'd be great. And I think the defense will stay around 3, 4, 5 range.
Top 5.
Yeah, it will stay around that range. And I think that's incredible because, like I was saying, defense wins games in the regular season. You know, we saw Toronto, that team that lost Kawhi. They were one of the best defensive teams in the league, and they went on and they won a lot of games. You know, in the playoffs, what lacked was they didn't have a number one towards the end of the games. Yeah. That's why Boston beat them. But this team plays defense, and defense we saw last year wins games in the regular season because it tires you out.
In the regular season,
it's a long season, yeah. So, like I said, I can see a situation where if the Nets and the Bucks play again, the Knicks could face Miami or face Atlanta and could get a win. You know, we seen Atlanta.
We think that Miami.
We didn't think Atlanta would beat Philly. We didn't.
But we know the roster of the Knicks. We know the roster of Atlanta. We've seen what's happened already when they faced one-on-one.
Let's say
it's a new roster.
Also, and Miami's a new roster too. That got better.
I wouldn't say new.
Let's say the Knicks are the third seed.
But they're going to have basically a new identity as well. Go ahead.
Let's say the Knicks are the third seed. 6th seed is Philly.
Celtics.
I'll just say Philly. Let's just say Philly's a 6th seed.
Okay.
We can't beat Philly.
You can beat Philly
in a series without Ben.
Without Ben.
With Ben, you can beat Philly.
I think with Ben we could beat them too.
You guys are being generous because I don't think
so. Based on just Ben in the playoffs,
I don't think so because
we've seen Kemba in the playoffs. He's cooked.
Because let's not pretend like Philadelphia should not have beat Atlanta swimmingly. They should have won
though. Doc is still the coach.
They blew those games. If they just
you know what's the difference with New York? They have better personnel to guard Embiid.
Yeah, Noel, Mitch.
But then you're also banking on Mitch staying healthy.
But Noel is Noel's a better defender than Clint Capella. I feel
this was really an anomaly season for Mitch.
Past 2 seasons that he's
the other year he was dealing with some stuff.
He relatively stays healthy. Yeah. He's not an injury prone player.
Can Julius bang with Embiid like that?
Mitch can.
He don't need to.
Nerlens Noel can. Better than Clint, definitely.
I just feel like there's no stopping Embiid, truthfully.
Of course there's no stop, but I think they're able to slow him down.
In the fourth quarter there is.
Mitch is an athletic Jared Allen.
Nature.
Okay.
He's a longer athletic Jared Allen. He has the knack like Tyson Chandler, and he has the length and the size like Jared Allen. Like he is that type of special athlete.
Listen, 7 feet tall. I'm not doubting the Knicks' abilities. I just think that other teams right now I look at and I just trust them more. That's all that it is.
You trust them over Tom Thibodeau coach team?
Let's be honest. What was Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota though? It's not.
They made the playoffs for the first time in like a drought.
But really, what did they do?
They were 4th seed before Jimmy Butler got hurt.
They got hurt.
And he tore his meniscus.
They were the 3rd seed, right? Yeah.
4th. They were 4th. Something like that.
Jimmy got hurt and they fell.
They still made it.
How long was Thibodeau on the team?
It was 2 years.
I think it was 2 years. It was the first developmental year. The next year they had
Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns, and Wiggins.
D-Rose.
Come on,
and then they played Houston.
Wait, that's a
good
when
trio.
Healthy, but they were injured.
And then they played Houston, bro. They wasn't.
Yeah, no.
Houston, the team that took Golden State to 7. That stat Golden State roster.
So wait, who do you think is a better coach, Doc or Tib? I think Tibbs is a better coach.
Tib.
They win.
Just go down the line in the East. We could Rick Carlisle or Tibbs.
Tib.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to say that.
What do you mean you're not
ready? What has Rick Carlisle done?
Huh?
What has he done?
He has a chip, bro.
He hasn't made the playoffs since then.
He just made it last year.
Yeah,
2 years in a row.
And the Mavericks were just like the 5th, 4th seed?
He has Luka.
Okay, that's fair.
He has the benefit of coaching these great
Thibodeau
players.
made the playoffs with Joakim Noah as his best player. I want you to remember that like dearly.
Okay.
And Nate Robinson was the star.
And G. Augustine too.
I need you to remember that. Yeah. Like he did that. Like defense gets them in, bro.
Okay, maybe I'll give you Rick Carlisle, but I don't think Indiana can be as good as the Knicks.
Personally, we're going to talk about it, so I'm going to hold off my opinion.
I think Tom Thibodeau, regardless, whichever way you slice the pie, he's a top 5 coach in the NBA.
The ceiling is the third seed.
So we all agree 3rd seed. What's the floor?
Floor is a play-in team.
5th seed.
5th for you? I got 7-6.
Okay.
So maybe playing.
Also, what I like about the Knicks a lot is that they can suffer through a few injuries and be fine.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Our depth is just insane. From 1 to 14, we have guys who can come in and play at a high level. I think teams can't say that. If Boston suffers an injury to Jaylen Brown, they're a playing team.
True.
If Philly suffers an injury to Tobias or Embiid, they're out the playoffs. Knicks, there will be.
If you lose Randall, you're toast.
I don't.
You
know
just
if that's
lost the
necessarily
best
true.
player on your team.
If
You
we
just said,
if we lose Randall, I think Kemba now jumps up to like 25 a game, and I think RJ jumps up to 23 a game and takes on that role.
Randall hasn't shown us he'll get hurt, so
that's fair.
until we see it,
I'm just saying you're saying Embiid, Tobias.
Well,
Embiid
just
has
taking
shown
the
Embiid
us.
gets hurt.
and that's fair. But I'm just you're saying
I didn't
it's
say
my guy.
Tobias.
He did.
Oh, okay.
But that's what I'm saying. You were saying they're these guys' best players, so
I mean,
take away
Indiana,
Randall.
the Pacers, they always get hurt.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Boston, Jaylen Brown got hurt this past season.
Fair enough.
So those teams, they
Yeah.
get hurt. Atlanta, they didn't stay healthy last year either.
Mm-hmm.
But Nate McMillan did a hell of a job.
They just
Gallo
lost
was hurt a lot.
DeAndre.
Boban
DeAndre
was
Hunt's
hurt.
hurt.
DeAndre
Yep.
was hurt.
And they
Cam
still
was
made
hurt.
it to the ECF.